I love paper. My gosh, I work so hard.
We'll go off script as well to see. Father are very sweet, excited children.
I'll do anything.
You know I'm Sussex now.
Harry.
I love my country, despite what some people in that country have done.
And we cannot do it without you.
That man loves me so much.
And now I'm stuck here.
And also the success of the brand is rooted in the fact that you can feel when I am involved in something.
And being a mom and a wife, they're finding workarounds where they'll have their friends stock up for them and then ship it to them separately.
2025 was full of fails and embarrassing moments from Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. While one shouts, "That man loves me so much," the other can't stand to have her on stage or even next to him on the red carpet. Whether it was forcing relatability among the youth, or word salading throughout the year,
A lot of learns.
Who means a lot to me.
And then it sold out within 4 hours.
the year ended for them with Meghan's Netflix show plummeting down the charts, as ever quietly exposing its lack of demand after a website glitch appeared to show hundreds of thousands of unsold products sitting in inventory, Harry's complete loss of identity, the media turning on them, and a bunch of longtime employees having left Meghan and Harry again. Hey everyone and welcome back to Scandalous Media. It's Angela here and Happy New Year. My 2026 treat for you is a top 10 list of Meghan and Harry's most embarrassing moments of 2025. And oh god, was this one hard to compile just because I had a hard time choosing what the most embarrassing moment was, since the one consistent thing these two do all year is be embarrassing. Stay tuned to the end of this video so you can see what I ranked as my number one most embarrassing moment and to see the 5 notable mentions as well. Let me know if you agree with my list or what you would rank differently and if there was anything I missed. Be sure to like and subscribe for new videos every single week, put those post notifications on so you don't miss the live chat premiere we've been doing for over 3 years now, and follow us on our social media. And now, let's get into it. Number 10. The Disaster Tourists. Meghan and Harry walked into 2025 by having a photo op for the devastating LA wildfires, and nothing encapsulated their year more than that. Coming to an event completely out of place, hanging out with city officials, taking in the devastation, as TMZ put it, and consistently briefing the media on their good doings. Both People magazine and TMZ reported the same story, that Meghan and Harry opened their home to friends and loved ones forced to evacuate and gave out supplies and essentials. Of course, everyone believed that to be a lie since Meghan and Harry don't seem to have any friends in the area. But the most embarrassing part was Meghan's scene trying to have a role. There is this lady who is seemingly venting, and as you can tell from her body language, she isn't facing Meghan and is talking to someone else.
They just arrived here.
And you can see Meghan hovering around. The lady isn't interested, they just arrived, and as she leaves, Meghan puts her hand on her, turns around, flusters, bends down as if she's grabbing a drink or placing something, only to walk away and approach this man as if she's mid-convo with him already. She goes back to the group where Harry's at. The media is calling her Princess Markle.
There we have a better shot of Princess Markle as Meghan.
And there she tries to find a role again. She's talking to the Pasadena mayor, Victor Gordo. Harry turns around, which leads Meghan to also turn around. Chef Jose Andres has their back to them, so there's no one to talk to. Meghan pivots and goes to hug the mayor. Mind you, it's not like they were leaving. They proceeded to stand there for several more minutes, so the whole thing just looked awkward and weird, and as if she was just trying to get a quick hug of her, hugging everybody around her and seeming empathetic with everyone. Meanwhile, when you watch the video, it just looks like a robot trying to move. Harry opens his arm for Chef Jose Andres, who approaches them, and you can see Meghan, who seems to be mid-sentence, talking empathetically and giving her all to this conversation, swing her head around abruptly to see what she was missing out on, and then she sees a clear opening, goes and puts her arm around this woman for the perfect camera shot. And watching this whole interaction back, you can see how posed this whole thing is and how unnatural it seems. The woman's body language is completely closed off to Meghan, and the whole thing reads weird, especially when Meghan turns around, looks at Chef Andres for a second, and then goes into this dramatic flare of a hug. It's very performative. Especially when the woman was also mid-convo here, and it looked like she was saying something important, but Meghan couldn't care less about the story as she walked off mid-convo looking for the next photo op. She then went to hug her in such a dramatic way. She's looking directly at the camera here because we all know her talent when it comes to spotting cameras. Harry honestly looked fed up with her fake empathy. Watch his face here. He looks like he was about to say something, purses his lips, he literally takes a deep breath, as if to take in all the BS. People were questioning if the woman they were talking to was actually part of their staff because she left with them, as you can see in this video. And as that video pans, you see this one man standing who's part of the media, because I believe that's a microphone he's holding, and no one else is around him, which confirmed to everyone that this is probably a hired photographer or someone briefing the media, because how else were they getting this information? Then of course they were seen surveying the damage, which is what really set people off. Civilians weren't even allowed back into their homes because it was deemed too dangerous. There were checkpoints, long lines, curfews, and gridlocked traffic.
Other big checkpoints is on Allenford as LAPD crews rush in here to set up their curfew at 6 p.m.
And yet, Harry and Meghan were seen taking a first-class tour of the damage. The question was simple: in what official capacity are Harry and Meghan doing this? They don't represent the state of California, they don't represent the US, and at this point, they don't really represent anything beyond themselves. Especially since 2025 was a year that showed that the philanthropic mask completely melted off, with both of them focusing their energy on being celebs, mushing around with the Kardashians, rather than the performative philanthropists they attempted to present themselves as in Colombia and Nigeria the year before. Number 9. Meghan inviting herself to Paris Fashion Week. Nothing was funnier than Meghan strutting all over Paris at the Balenciaga show, acting like the #1 most powerful person just walked into the room, only for it to be exposed that, once again, she invited herself. Which makes this video that much funnier. Aside from two shocked bystanders heard in the background, it almost felt like a meme when you enter mighty and proud, but it's literally crickets. As I discussed in previous videos, Meghan's team released a statement that made it sound like she was the celebrity guest of honor who was chosen by Pier Paolo Pacioli himself, only for him to hilariously reveal that she was the one texting him and asking to come to the show.
It just happened. She said, "I'd love to come to your show."
A few months later in her Harper's Bazaar cover story, which I broke down extensively, especially all the narcissistic traits that popped up, she tried to casually reveal that she wanted to come as if to soften the embarrassment and walk back the long-running narrative that everyone is constantly begging for her presence, and that she represents some missed, invaluable asset that the royal family foolishly let go. Number 8. The Invictus Games, everyone fighting against the Meghan show. When I asked you guys to list some of your fave embarrassing Meghan and Harry moments, the Invictus Games didn't make the cut, so it's my job to do a speed round of all the forced PDA, Meghan's Instagram obsession, her phone addiction, lack of crowds, the famous claw takes on Canada, and to remind you all of what happened. Of course, if you want the full breakdown, check out my video covering the entire saga. Starting off strong, Meghan's nauseating speech at the welcome reception that started with her saying,
Well, hello, you. Hi, everybody.
The crowd was not feeling her, as you can hear from the scattered claps and no reaction, which forced her to keep engaging the crowd.
And I touched Canadian soil and I went, oh, it feels like home.
How much adrenaline you have pumping, how excited you are for what is going to be one of the most outstanding, memorable, unforgettable, and connected weeks probably for you and for your families. We are just thrilled to be.
She then goes on to introduce Harry in the most, I'm trying to not leave this mic while convincing you all I didn't ruin this man's life, who now serves as a background character in his own life.
Introduce someone who means a lot to me. He'll be going down that, what is that? Is it the luge? Oh my gosh, you guys, the thing that I will never do.
She practically had to be peeled off stage. Seriously, she kept going.
As you know, with families, the big rush in the morning and getting ready for school and packing the lunch boxes and making breakfast, and my husband's in all of that with us.
I just know Harry was standing backstage like, if someone doesn't shut her up already.
And then he'll be on his phone and Archie will say, Papa, why are you on your phone? He's like, because it's Invictus.
And when she finally introduces him,
my husband, the father of our very sweet, excited children who are cheering you on from California, Prince Harry.
She plants a fat kiss on him and motions for him to go to literally the only podium on the stage, and Harry looks like he'd rather go back in time and block that Instagram DM from ever getting through. She's seal clapping behind him as Harry awkwardly starts off his speech and asks the crowd if they're tired, as if Meghan didn't just chew their ear off about how they're probably tired.
Are you all tired?
Fast forward to the opening ceremony, and that claw was fully present for this huge smoosh that many felt like was inappropriate to do at such an event like the Invictus Games. I feel like Meghan had more respect in how she handles herself at, I don't know, Paris Fashion Week or Kris Jenner's birthday party, as opposed to how she acts at work events such as the Invictus Games or even those tours in Colombia and Nigeria. Honorary mention for the double claw here, and Harry's body language completely off. Here everyone is watching something seemingly emotional, and Meghan is acting like a teenager on a first date at a movie theater. She was on her phone documenting the whole time in her Instagram stories and literally not being present at all, just being on the same social media she claims is the problem for other people, but not her. Now, one of the most bizarre claw moments at the event is when Meghan spots the camera here and physically moves the woman she's talking to in the direction of the camera for the perfect shot. I mean, the audacity to physically position a person and move them into frame. And it worked, because she then got these photos of her doing that intense stare where she pretends to care, followed up by a bear hug in perfect view of the camera. Her behavior was just insane, but as the year went on, Harry's patience seemed to wear thin with her. Number 7, the Project Healthy Minds event, but being mentally checked out. On October 9 and 10, Harry and Meghan attended the Project Healthy Minds event in New York, as well as the Project Healthy Minds World Mental Health Day Festival, and the irony of it all was that it just amplified how tense and disconnected Meghan and Harry are, not only with the world, but with each other. And to add to the irony, they were honored as Humanitarians of the Year. Yes, Meghan and Harry, who at this point have not contributed to much besides a bunch of word salad about social media with zero clear action steps toward real change, were honored out of literally almost everyone else in the world. The most we've gotten was Jam and Meghan's serial vlogging on Instagram, while Harry, well, we'll talk about his particular contribution to 2025 when we get to number 3. They first arrived looking very tense as Harry looked down, and automatically his body language was very guarded and away from Meghan. She tried to give him a lovey-dovey stare here, but he literally couldn't make eye contact with her, proceeds to move down almost immediately, and in that split second, we see him look down again, pull away from Meghan, and she poses in place for the cameras. Right off the bat, we know they're not on the same page, and the fact that he dodged her eye contact the whole night was telling. The whole time, he has a tight-lipped smile on, and as he's moving down the red carpet, he's like pulling Meghan along with him rather than them moving on together. I find it interesting that Meghan was trying to do this look lovingly at husband pose a few times during the short red carpet walk, and the result is these loving pictures. But when you watch the video, it genuinely looks forced and performative. He doesn't look at her once, almost like he's avoiding eye contact, which throws their entire dynamic off. The second she does that look, it's almost as if he is uncomfortable because watch as he looks away and moves down the red carpet instead. It's usually Harry who is isolated by Meghan at these events, like we've seen in Nigeria, for example. She usually likes to stand in front of him and let him know that he doesn't have much to offer. At least that's what their body language tells us. But at this event, it looks like she's trying to soothe the dynamic on her own, and these performative loving looks aren't helping when he's dodging them, even turning his head away. It's also not something we see often from her, since she's always caught looking at him with disdain, but there are a few moments like this one, or anytime she posts on Instagram, which is her version of the Department of Defense, and that one time in New York when she and Harry had faked a paparazzi car chase. Notice how New York is not an issue now, huh? Now here comes another interesting part. The CEO of Project Healthy Minds, Phil Shermer, approaches them, Harry shakes his hand, and watch this little tap Meghan gives Harry. She hits his elbow like, signaling, "Move over, buddy, it's my turn." He ignores her while she's smiling at Phil, who looks at Meghan and goes to shake her hand, but watch Harry's face. His smile drops, and for a millisecond, he gives Meghan this look, where his jaw seems to clench for a moment, indicative of his true nature of emotions. Does this man look happy to anyone? Here's another angle where you can see it more clearly, where she motions for him to give her dominance in the situation. And here, you can see the look Harry gave her a bit more clearly. I found this odd because clearly, Meghan, you were gonna get your shot, which makes me think it's kind of like a mask slip. She genuinely can't help but take over a situation, and I've noticed that she's tried to fight against that nature a bit, probably because of all the criticism and people catching on to the way she likes to dominate a situation. It makes her very unlikable, as we've seen in the years I've covered her behavior. After the hug and kiss she gives Phil, she tries to hold Harry's hand again here, but he dodges her for a bit, and judging by Meghan's expression, she's not happy with him. It's like someone who is disobeying. And with Meghan, things get awkward quite fast, so she turns to the cameras and starts posing again, while Harry and Phil are looking to move down. Their body language is completely out of sync, as Meghan is often looking one way and Harry the other. This entire interaction is less of an isolated problem, but rather insight into the state of their relationship because of how off their entire dynamic is. Even all the photos came out looking quite awkward. One thing I noticed that adds to the embarrassment is that the whole time I think you can hear someone instructing them to move down the red carpet. I don't know if I'm hearing "bring it down," and you can even see someone moving Phil down the carpet more. I'll insert the clip and you let me know what you think. Anyway, the whole time you can see Meghan mouthing "thank you," and it's like you don't really hear anyone saying anything to her, which I found pretty funny. You can tell that she's enjoying the cameras and flashing lights to another degree though. And the final embarrassing moment on the red carpet is when Harry motions for Meghan to go ahead, and she's not happy about it. Like, the FOMO is real. He's talking to someone, and she's almost fuming in the corner as to why she's not involved. Look at the way her mask slips here, as Harry's called over, so it's not like he isolated her on purpose.
We'll see you upstairs. Hey, Harry, when you go upstairs.
But her true nature shows for a few seconds in these elements of surprise where she stands there, turns her head, and then quickly collects herself with a tight-lipped smile on. I'm sorry, but she's just so creepy to me. She functions like a robot trying to implement human emotions. You can tell she doesn't want to get off the red carpet because she's always giving a last-minute turn and looking behind her as opposed to in front of her as she moves down the carpet. Kind of like someone trying to salvage it all and take it all in. And notice how in this angle, both Harry and the woman on the side motion for Meghan to go on ahead, but she freezes a bit, like she doesn't want to move forward as Harry has to literally guide her there by putting his hand on her back. Inside the event, Meghan sat in the middle between Harry and her bestie and Soho man, Marcus Anderson. Harry is talking to someone next to him, and Meghan is just listening, probably wanting in on the convo. Harry turns and seemingly explains to her what was being said, and I just found that their entire dynamic seemed very tense and almost a bit formal. Now, if you thought their red carpet appearance was tense, embarrassing, and awkward, oh, just you wait for their speech that really takes the cake. Starting off strong with the only thing Meghan seems to know about Archie and Lily, their ages.
Archie and Lily are just 6 and 4 years old. Can you believe it?
Notice how the crowd doesn't react to Meghan's "can you believe it?" It's an awkward silence, and watch Harry, whose body language is guarded away from Meghan, with him hanging his head down, almost as if in shame. His mouth keeps tightening, he keeps swaying back and forth. He is genuinely mentally checked out as Meghan goes on about their little perfect family. The irony of this, coming the week after Meghan squirmed her way into Paris Fashion Week to support Balenciaga, the same brand that did a bondage-inspired photoshoot starring children, which caused massive backlash, and is something we even covered on this channel. But if it's high fashion in its first row at Paris Fashion Week, I really don't think Meghan cares. Meghan spends the majority of the time talking about all the apparent good she and Harry have done. Another me speech.
Now, 2 years ago, we first spoke publicly about the work we've been doing with parents around social media's devastating impact on their children.
There's no mention of anything concrete that their alleged research uncovered. No clear takeaways, no guidance on what could actually be done moving forward, and nothing that felt useful beyond self-praise.
We launched this program a year prior.
After we had been tracking the effects of online harms more broadly in 2020, we were doing the research. We were meeting with experts at Stanford who had been trying to be heard on the findings that they knew were troubling and that would only worsen.
She makes sure to mention that they've been doing this quietly.
And our work continued for years, quietly.
Yet here she is announcing it on stage, and instead of announcing what they found, she keeps on repeating the same story about the harms of social media while listing receipts of everything they've been doing, meeting with random networks. Why does she always smile when referencing families dealing with loss? Take a look.
In 2023, we connected with the Social Media Victims Law Center. We met with a group of American families whose lives were forever changed.
It's something I believe is all for publicity, since we still don't see what's changed as a result of it. Check out my video on the Parents Network and that Bazaar interview of theirs. At one point, Meghan goes off script.
If you do get a chance, I will go off script as well to see the Lost Screen Memorial and hear many of their children's stories. Tomorrow, I think it will...
Harry looks visibly unamused, almost self-soothing as she lingers, clearly trying to extend her time on stage. Watch his reaction when Meghan then instructs them to bring the teleprompter back to where she was in the speech.
If we can go back to where we were, that's good, thank you.
He flashes a tight half smile that looks completely forced, staring past Meghan and into the crowd instead. It almost reads less like a smile and more like a sarcastic scowl. He sways a bit, then drops his gaze again. And when he looks down, his head kinda hangs like in shame, and I don't know if he has ADHD or something, but his body language is telling a different story than the supportive act Meghan wishes to portray. He seems to not be able to fathom the BS and the irony of Meghan talking about the creation of spaces for families to connect and to heal, as he goes from hanging his head down in shame to looking up, taking a deep gulp with his tight-lipped smile, biting down on his lip. I mean, the whole thing isn't just bizarre, but just sad to watch.
You've created the spaces for families to connect and to heal. And to all the parents who've been part of the Parents Network, we are accepting this award this evening for you, in honor of you.
Keep in mind that Meghan's speech came after Harry's. Watch the way he introduces her to the podium.
And we cannot do it without you.
He didn't even introduce her. He just moved back with a stiff, tight-lipped look, avoiding all eye contact with her, to the point where she steps in and gives him a look, he dodges it and looks down. And that's when she starts it off, talking about Archie and Lily as if to humanize her. During Harry's speech, she has this smug smile on, watching and playing into the role of the loving wife who's the second coming of her mother-in-law, who everyone loved, except the whole scene feels like she's thinking of what angle the cameras are getting of her and how this could work to her benefit as opposed to helping anyone else. But notice the key difference in his speech versus hers.
4,000. That's how many families the Social Media Victims Law Centre is currently representing.
Harry brings up statistics of what these organizations are doing and the impact they are having, or even talks about the specific problems that the parents have and the action steps to potentially take.
And parents who found their way to help in the fight back against some of the wealthiest, most powerful corporations in the world. For grieving parents, because these companies refuse to disclose their child's information and activity on their platforms.
This is very different than the long list of receipts of Meghan just saying what they have partaken in. And from all the photos we've seen, neither Harry nor Meghan look pleased with the other. After the general public caught up on this tension and awkwardness, Meghan posted this video on Instagram as damage control. It's like she's pleading, "Look guys, my husband loves me so much, and he's staring at me with loving eyes and I'm always laughing around him." As if that disproves the mountain of evidence that night gave us. The next day was Project Healthy Minds World Mental Health Day Festival, and Meghan took the stage and the first thing she said was,
My husband's gonna sit this one out. He just got me.
which is an interesting thing to say considering that Harry was scheduled to give a speech later.
Today is more than just about conversation. It's about community.
I'm not going to focus too much on their speeches since they gave the same boring word salad, but I will mention that Meghan said,
What's happening to childhood? And how and what do we do to allow our children to just be children?
which I find interesting considering these are the kids completely isolated from the outside world and only appearing on social media by their own mother, who was also the source that sold their photos to Netflix for their documentary after accusing the royal family and UK tabloids of wanting to exploit her kids. Meanwhile, we only see the kids because of everything Meghan posts of them when she's using them to promote her show or lifestyle brand. And while they were busy playing wellness gurus on stage, the real chaos was quietly happening behind the scenes. Number 6, the employee escape plan, losing senior employees and their 11th publicist. Meghan and Harry have long been plagued by their high staff turnover rate, how everyone they hire leaves before they are left, and Meghan's well-documented history of bullying extending across the globe. In true Sussex fashion, they lost 3 more employees this past December. At the end of 2025, the Archwell Foundation became Archwell Philanthropies, just as more employees were leaving and the whole organization seemed to be shaking up. Kristen Slevin, the charity's director of programs and operations, was let go. Over the summer, Harry and Meghan also lost Kylie Boulay and Charlie Gibson, their former press secretaries, along with 2 other employees. On top of that, Archwell's finances were reportedly in trouble in 2024, racking up $5.1 million in expenses while only bringing in $2.1 million in donations. Perhaps the most shocking of all was the departure of James Holt, who was the executive director of Archwell and one of their closest longtime advisors, a key figure in running their philanthropic efforts for nearly a decade. He appeared on their soap opera Harry and Meghan and was always running to their defense. According to reports, he quit and told People magazine that it's time for my family to return to London. He didn't say anything negative about Harry and Meghan, but his departure speaks volumes. It follows that of former Archewell senior staffers Genevieve Roth, Christine Schirmer, and Ashley Hansen. An industry source told Page 6, anyone still there is simply an enabler, enamored with what the couple once was, not who they are today. From a year ago, they have decreased their staff by at least 80 to 85%. Another source said, every time someone leaves Harry and Meghan, they say they're staying on in some capacity, but they are never heard from again. The week before that news broke, it was announced that they also lost their publicist, Meredith Maines, after less than a year of employment. In 2025 alone, Harry and Meghan lost about 6 senior staffers, plus their 11th publicist in 5 years. Embarrassing or healing? Number 5. No more good PR. When big Hollywood isn't even willing to accept your publicist checks to keep the good PR coming, that's how you know you're in trouble. Starting off 2025, Harry and Meghan thought they were kicking the year off strong, until Vanity Fair sank its teeth into them. The January cover story didn't hold back, based on interviews with former associates who painted a scathing picture of their post-royal lives. The article, essentially a full-on exposé, covered everything from alleged bullying to struggling business ventures, with sources calling Meghan's workplace behavior really awful and comparing it to dealing with a mean girl's teenager, leaving some staff with long-term therapy needs. I covered the entire thing in a video, so definitely check it out. The piece also dug into their professional misfires, Meghan shopping around for a post-Harry divorce book, Spotify and Netflix deals going nowhere, and bizarre pitch ideas like a sociopath's podcast or Harry reviewing hot cocoa. On the personal side, Harry was described as socially marooned in California, while Montecito locals reportedly called them local villains and the most entitled, disingenuous people on the planet. People magazine, their bestie, and TMZ all called them out for supposedly ticking no on a consent form so their photos wouldn't be shared at Kris Jenner's birthday party, except both outlets confirmed that there weren't any consent forms to sign in the first place. Meghan's Harper's Bazaar cover story was another disaster, calling her out for her deadpan stares, power plays, calculated nature, and more. Honestly, the whole thing was just comical. I did a full deep dive on that narcissistic breakdown, so make sure to check it out. However, the PR wasn't the only thing failing, but so were the business ventures. Number 4. Meghan's failed business ventures. Meghan's business ventures this year didn't exactly break the internet, but they may have broke the bank. First up was her Netflix-style series with Love Meghan. Despite a big rollout and a built-in promotional platform, the show quietly slid out of Netflix's top 10 within days and ultimately ranked far down the list, somewhere around number 383 globally by mid-2025, with only about 5 million hours viewed. Even after a second season dropped, it still failed to crack the top 10, with viewership dipping noticeably from season 1. It didn't even make the top 400, so there was nothing left to fall. They marketed it as Season 1 and Season 2, even though it was filmed simultaneously, to try to milk whatever they could for Netflix. Critics also tore it apart. UK outlets like The Guardian and The Independent called it gormless lifestyle filler and compared it unfavorably to actual lifestyle gurus. It was filled with a bunch of bizarre moments, scripted scenes, and overall a snooze fest.
Did you watch Suits?
No.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
And loves it.
Funny too that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now.
Okay, ready?
I think it's flip. Don't worry.
Then there's her podcast efforts. After a reported attempt to launch something like Confessions of a Female Founder following the Spotify deal collapse and a change of platforms, it made almost no cultural or chart noise all year. Her lifestyle brand, originally called American Riviera Orchard, never got off the ground under that name after trademark issues, and it was quickly rebranded to As Ever after filming for With Love Meghan wrapped up, so it was a missed opportunity to even promote the brand on the show.
My business, which I think there's been a lot of curiosity about, and it's called As Ever.
Despite some social media buzz and reports of jam selling out, a website glitch accidentally revealed massive inventory levels on everything else, which critics used to mock the business's real demand. And then there's the Netflix deal itself, originally speculated to be worth around $100 million, which was reportedly downgraded under its new terms. Instead of a big exclusive production commitment, Netflix now has just a first-look arrangement with Archewell Productions, which is a noticeable step down from the original deal. How are you given everything only to lose it all? Number 3. Harry, lost, lonely, and hypocritical. For all of 2025, I spoke about how Harry and Meghan were doing separate things. For the first half, Harry was dealing with the UK security case on its own. Meghan was doing all the fun things like the podcast, the Netflix show, building her own brand, socializing with celebs, while Harry kinda looked like the schizophrenic prince. This posed the question, is this just Meghan's solo projects with Harry as the guest star? And honestly, that's how it started to feel. Everywhere Harry went, it seemed like he was either tagging along or being photographed reacting to Meghan rather than leading his own path. His public appearances were awkwardly staged, his projects seemed half thought out, and he increasingly looked like someone trying to fit into a role he didn't write for himself.
Thinking like my lower back or my
No, nobody wants to see your Harry.
No, that's the place where no one's going to see it.
He made a surprise appearance this past December on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, where essentially his entire purpose was solely being there to appeal relatable, like, wow, a real prince walking among us.
Prince Henry Charles Albert David of Wales, Sussex, what are you doing here?
The whole time, Harry is doing this quirky, almost performative, shy thing, glancing at the crowd, half smiling, soaking in a standing ovation like he doesn't quite know what to do with it. Harry jokes about being there for an audition.
I genuinely thought this was the audition for the Gingerbread Prince Saves Christmas in Nebraska.
And the irony of the joke is that Stephen is like, you're an actual prince, why would you be here for an audition? To which Harry is like,
you Americans are obsessed with Christmas movies, and you're clearly obsessed with royalty, so why not?
I get that it's a joke, but it unintentionally highlights the problem. Nearly 6 years after leaving the royal family, Harry still hasn't built a distinct identity outside of being a prince who left the monarchy. His media moments continue to rely on the novelty of royal proximity, not on anything he's created, led, or accomplished independently in the US. Harry actively rejected the institution that gave him that identity, yet still leans on it for applause, relevance, and access. The standing ovation wasn't for his work, his ideas, his impact. It was for the title he claims to have outgrown. Harry wants to be seen like an ordinary guy, but without the discipline, direction, or purpose that actually grounds someone post-royal life. Instead, he's stuck in this in-between space. No longer royal, not quite reinvented, which is why moments like these feel less charming and more revealing. Now he's trying to joke about America being obsessed with royalty.
I wouldn't say we're obsessed with royalty.
Really? I heard you elected a king.
That's a fair point.
Which is ironic because the only traction Harry and Meghan get is when they're jumping on someone else's show or event because no one is showing up to theirs. And the funny part is that he's now crawling back for royal relevance. What he and Meghan did in those first years after leaving, trying to expose the royal family, doubling down on the racism narrative, and insisting they didn't want to be royals or treated as such, is now the very story they're quietly walking back to. He claimed he just wanted to be called Harry.
He's made it clear that we are all just to call him Harry.
Yet here he is riding the coattails of his title. Just like his wife, the same woman who said she didn't care about titles except the title of being a mom.
Lovely to meet you, Duchess. You're like, call me Meghan.
Yeah.
But is now being announced as Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, while standing in a room with one other person, the interviewer. Even the Harper's Bazaar writer made a point to note how bizarre that entire moment was. And yet, this little bit draws back to Meghan's acting days, still feeding this lie that she was some huge actress who had so much going on for her, a life she gave up for Harry, which couldn't be further from the truth.
This is all about who you know. I mean, do you have a personal connection to any famous TV actresses?
I might know one.
She wasn't Julia Roberts. She was a cable TV actress cast in one role. That was it. There wasn't anything else to her discography, and when she came back to Hollywood, the roles weren't exactly knocking on her door. One part of the joke that is symbolic of Harry's loss of identity and lack of a role in Meghan's professional world is what Harry says next.
But listen, Stephen, I'll do anything. I'll do anything.
That definitely wraps up Meghan and Harry's desperation the past couple of years because their big comeback to the world wasn't anything groundbreaking, whether that was humanitarian or in Hollywood. So we're left with jam and Prince jokes on late night TV. I mean, the cringe writes itself. Even Harry, in a comedy bit, gives off big please clap energy.
Stephen, you just have to believe. Doesn't this prove anything can happen?
And the only joke they have to resort to is a sarcastic almost kiss moment between Harry and Stephen for that shock factor.
Isn't there a handsome prince standing in front of you?
Harry.
Yep, that's what Harry left the strict institution for. To go and use his title and privilege that was supposed to be serving the public to pander to Americans who still won't show up for whatever he's selling. Like if anyone's shown this screen cap to Harry in 2019 who thought he was meant for a bigger purpose, I think he wouldn't have minded standing in the shadow of his brother who even then, he had a bigger and more respectful role than whatever he's resorting to nowadays. Hey, at least he has the official title of
Harry, the official Late Show Prince of Christmas!
Just 7 months ago in May, he was pandering to the UK, using his father to gain sympathy while also sounding the alarm about his dad's health, saying,
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
This is the same person who claimed that his status hasn't changed.
Because you're no longer a working royal, a change in your status. Do you not accept that from the court?
Well, my status hasn't changed. It can't change.
Yet by the end of the year, he's in a comedic bit about trying to be cast in a rom-com and essentially begging to be in the public eye rather than whining about security in the UK. Do you see the issue here? With Harry, he's blaming the UK, the government, and his father on his paranoia regarding not bringing Meghan or the kids back.
Bringing my wife and children back to the UK at this point. The things that they're going to miss is, well, everything.
He lets out a self-pity chuckle when he says they're going to miss everything, as if they so desperately want to be there and someone is stopping them. Meanwhile, Meghan happily went to Paris, even posting near where Diana died, yet Harry has been claiming security concerns to avoid the UK, turning a personal choice into a cover for all her past lies and drama. In this BBC interview, he gave the same spiel of loving his country while painting himself as such an insecure victim.
I love my country. I always have done. Despite what some people in that country have done.
It's always what people are doing to him and not what he's doing to people. It's like everything he's done, all the he's talked, the way he backstabbed his entire family, the lies he spewed, somehow doesn't exist, and he's convinced himself he's the injured party. If he's the victim in his own mind after all that, then what does that make his family, who haven't uttered a single word? Saints? Martyrs? Or simply the true casualties of his self-serving narrative? Check out my video on that for more of his lies exposed. Another embarrassing moment of Harry's from the year that showed how isolated and confused he is was the time he knocked on the wrong door not once but 3 times, before finally stumbling upon his mystery friend's home only to find out that they had moved away. For someone so concerned about his safety, he sure is wandering around London ringing wrong doorbells. I think he should be more concerned about his mental health rather than anything else. It's a reoccurring theme, Harry lost in his life and marriage with zero clue where he's headed.
And now I'm stuck here.
Number 2. Meghan's Word Salad Tour. 2025 was the year Meghan was just saying anything and doing anything. Anytime she opened her mouth, you knew some hilarious statements were about to come out. Let's start off with some memorable cringe fest moments on the podcast with Jamie Kern-Lima.
That man loves me so much. He's also a fox, if you haven't noticed. My husband's very, very handsome.
How about when Jamie surprised Meghan with a letter the kids and Harry wrote to her, which I find hard to believe that it was Jamie who came up with this little bit. Nonetheless, Meghan is like,
for them to be able to look back and go, oh my gosh, she has loved us so much.
It's never I love them, it's she loves us, he loves me, I'm so perfect, yada yada yada. Don't forget the Super Mario analogy where she feeds into the story where she, the princess, was saved by Harry from his big bad family.
I always think about it like the end of Super Mario Brothers when you get to the final level, and what's the goal in Super Mario? They're like, slay the dragon, save the princess. I'm like, that's my husband.
Keep in mind that while Meghan was trying to paint this lovey-dovey life on the podcast where she claimed they're still in the honeymoon phase and the happiest they've ever been, Harry is out in interviews and in court saying he feels unsafe and that history will repeat itself. You know what's embarrassing though? Meghan's description of hard work.
My gosh, I work so hard and I'm still working hard, right? The moment that everything sells out, it doesn't mean that we're done. Yeah, it means we're working on
replenishment and what are the next SKUs and what's the next tranche of products and what's the timing on that and writing the newsletters and writing the social media captions and making sure that all that feels in line and what's the cadence of it and what's the photography that we want to do and what do I want to wear for those shoots, while also editing all the time-coded notes for season 2 of With Love Meghan and then being in edits for the podcast.
Writing the newsletter, writing social media captions, and making sure that feels in line and making sure what's the cadence of it, what do I want to wear. Wow, feels like a lot, Meg. And then notice how she glitches when she realizes that she's been talking about herself for a hot minute and her hard work of thinking of a photo shoot. She literally zones out and shifts into being a mom.
And being a mom and a wife and a friend.
Yeah. Meghan showed up on Jamie's podcast in casual clothes and no makeup, then completely switched it up for the Aspire podcast. Suddenly it was full businesswoman cosplay, blazer on, heavy glam, a whole rebrand. There was full-on narcissism from angry triggered stares when Emma talks about desperation, to a full-blown admission that the brand is only successful because of her involvement.
And also the success of the brand, I believe, is rooted in the fact that you can feel when I am involved in something.
To show how hands-on she is in the creative process, she actually exposes and confirms those exact stories of how she's difficult to work with and only thinks that her ideas are the best.
The analogy I say is, don't bake the cake without me.
Check out my video on the Aspire podcast for more embarrassing moments because there were a lot. But one of Meghan's biggest word salad speeches that I didn't get a chance to cover was her fortune speech. It starts off with Meghan saying that she had to run back to the kids in between her New York and Paris trip.
One day to see your kids. Yes, I had to. We were talking about that because everyone said, oh, you must have gone from Paris straight to New York. I said, no, I need to see my babies.
The entire time she keeps repeating that it's been a year of learns, which is startup speak for nothing worked but please clap.
A lot of learns.
Learns is industry startup jargon, especially in Silicon Valley, corporate, founder spaces, but it sounds very buzzwordy when repeated out loud in a speech.
Year one for any founder is just a lot of learns. I think my learns were to continue to give yourself the grace to have to pivot. So I think it's just been a lot of learns. So I think looking at that format, again, with a year of learns.
And every single time, you don't even know what she's saying. And the reason it stood out and became cringe was because it felt like she was cosplaying a tech founder, girl boss, and it came out very unnatural and rehearsed, which the general public picked up on in the comments. She was very desperate to prove the brand during the speech. Part of me felt like she was insecure, lecturing when she clearly hasn't found that much groundbreaking success. So she kept pointing out how successful she was.
And I had this incredible fortune of having every SKU sell out within under an hour.
But poor her, she couldn't learn from that because failure? She doesn't know what that is.
Which is amazing. And also you don't learn a lot.
But what we do know was her desperation to emphasize her success.
Because that first sellout, we said, great, let's 10x the inventory. And then it sold out within 4 hours. Which again is amazing, but also not helpful.
She tried to emphasize this success by telling a story about how people around the world apparently want her products so badly that they're having friends stock up for them and ship them overseas because it's not available internationally.
They're finding workarounds where they'll have their friends stock up for them and then ship it to them separately.
I don't know if I buy that, but notice how quickly the speech turns into a full me show. The Fortune Women's Summit is supposed to spotlight women leaders, talking about leadership lessons with measurable outcomes. What worked, what failed, what they do differently. Instead, Meghan spent most of the time talking about herself, dressing it up as performative founder speak with no real substance behind it. She would throw in business-savvy words like SKUs, which is stock-keeping units, and overall the way and tone in which she was speaking didn't really hit to the average viewer.
Incredible fortune of having every SKU sell out. So that's what we're working towards, especially for Q4.
Now you guys know how insecure Meghan gets when the topic of failure comes up. So when the convo regarding Netflix's new terms with them, aka their downgraded deal, came up,
and that partnership just renewed with slightly different terms,
she was quick to mention other deals, like the Obamas also falling through, to move away from her own failure and mask it as, well, this was happening to everyone, while saying a whole bunch of nonsense. Take a look.
Yes, well, my husband and I were in an overall deal with Netflix, and then not dissimilar to Higher Ground and the Obamas deal.
Once that had come to its term, the extension of it, which was such an incredible sign of the strength of our partnership, was now being in a first look deal.
Notice how she made sure to say strength of our partnership. Like reports weren't running rampant with how Netflix is beyond fed up with their inability to produce anything worthwhile. She reshapes the entire downgraded deal as something exciting because it gives them flexibility, and if Netflix doesn't like it, they'll be able to find a home for their idea somewhere else. As if anyone is on the other end asking for it. She goes back into that me show again, saying that the team is supportive of her.
Because when you have female executive leadership that is so supportive of me as an entrepreneur.
She mentions the Netflix show complements as ever.
Where you have the show complementing the brand, where content and commerce are meeting.
Which is interesting because both seasons were filmed before the name change from American Riviera Orchard to As Ever. So although the products were shown, the label wasn't. So sure, it complements it, maybe only to Meghan who knows what's going on, unlike the average viewer. When asked if a season 3 is coming, Meghan quickly diverted attention to the holiday special and how they're basically rethinking the format because it's a year of learns and that it's a lot of work.
Will we be seeing a season 3?
Well, the holiday special is coming out
in November? And it's a really good one. So I think
looking at that format, again, with a year of learns, it's a lot of work.
That sure is a lot to say, no, we didn't get renewed for season 3. It's a lot of work when you don't have any material and you're trying to come up with anything when the premise is gifting and inviting strangers to a set to come up with something. That awkwardness makes her pivot to her safety net, Suits.
And having done Suits for 7 years, I remembered what goes into a production.
Yeah, things take effort and work. It's not supposed to come easily because you married a prince. She pivots again and talks about short-form content.
Part of what we're testing out now is it's amazing to be able to sit and watch a show for 30 minutes, but how can I give you a recipe in 2 minutes?
The irony of this being an event for successful business women and their strategies, but Meghan is here promoting a fake idea that her show was successful and that will make her branch out into short-form content, when in reality, no one is coming to Meghan for recipes, whether that's in 2 minutes or 30 minutes. We're going to the average person on TikTok who can teach us something useful instead of a glamorized and tone-deaf lifestyle that a celebrity tries to use as a form of connection. Meghan then goes on a whole tangent about how she does gift wrapping, and the interviewer is like,
yeah, you had a lot of odd jobs.
I don't know if she's being shady to her because of Meghan's reputation that she just makes up experiences as she goes on, but the interviewer mentions her froyo job, which prompts Meghan to go into a whole me speech talking about how she used to do calligraphy for celebrity weddings, so much of celebrity weddings and hotels, and how this was in between auditions, and she'd have to put on a white tube sock on her hands so she doesn't get the paper oily. I mean, truly, it was a whole lot of nonsense.
You know, when I used to do calligraphy, I used to do it for so many celebrity weddings and for hotels, and that was in between auditions. I would just put a white tube sock on my hand. Right, all these.
She is so self-satisfied. Like, she loves talking about herself and how cool and amazing she is. She's not here to give you any advice. She's just here to gloat about her life and her success.
The inventory's moving in a way that we hadn't anticipated, which is the biggest blessing.
It's astonishing to watch, especially when it's an inflation of success and demand. Because when the topic of As Ever expanding into retail stores came up,
can we expect to see some of your stuff maybe in like a Target?
Since, you know, it's so successful and the units keep selling out, Meghan stalls and goes into a queen of word salad rambling.
Well, I think the retail component is so important, especially in growing a business, but
also what I'm really working to convey, and my intention with As Ever, is getting back to things that are tactile, how we connect with each other. You want to put your hands on it. How does it feel?
Literally, what does any of that have to do with the simple question of, are you going to sell your allegedly successful business in retail stores? She basically explains that if she does move into retail, she wants it to be limited, exclusive collaborations rather than a wide rollout.
My intention would be to have really bespoke, small retail collaborations, do some interesting ones as well in global territories.
And then she pivots again, away from anything that might suggest failure and back toward a narrative where she's always positioned as an effortless, successful businesswoman, shifting straight into talk about scaling the brand.
And then, of course, as you think about scaling, it's a brand that's accessible, but it still has a quality that feels as though it's mastige.
Notice the word mastige, which is basically a fancy way of saying not luxury, but please treat it like it is. And after all of that, the only thing she can say is that it'd be a couple of years before going into larger retail. Because keep in mind that the interviewer had asked her if Target would be one of the retailers she would sell As Ever in.
And so when we think about larger retailers, I think in the next couple of years that would make sense.
Maybe she got triggered that her fancy wannabe royal brand would get reduced to something mainstream or collecting dust in Target, almost as if that's beneath her. She probably expects to cater her jam at Chanel or something. I mean, she did kind of scoff laugh when Target was mentioned.
Maybe in like a Target or...
When asked about TikTok, Meghan said,
I don't know. I mean, I think, look, I have had a very complicated relationship with social media, as you can probably imagine.
She talks as if everyone in the room is up to date with her. As you can imagine. Aw, poor little me. I can't handle criticism when everyone I come in contact with can't stand me and I'm constantly exposed for my lies. That launches her into another orbit.
My husband and I spend a lot of time
working on online harms, specifically surrounding protecting our children, not ours personally, but all of our children.
Which is funny since their role in the Parents Network seems to no longer exist as of this past week. It was announced that Parents Together is now fully running the project. While People magazine reports that Meghan and Harry are expected to remain involved with the Parents Network, formal decisions haven't been finalized. This is code for, they're basically out. I told you all in my video about their bizarre CBS Sunday morning interview for the Parents Network, where they looked practically bored and just using it as a self-serving platform to complain about what's being said about them on social media. Their so-called plan of hosting group projects for affected parents was basically non-existent because beyond spreading vague talking points, Meghan and Harry didn't create any real change. They just used other people's trauma as a selling point. The pain of grieving parents was treated like a backdrop for their messaging, and when the cameras were gone, so was any real follow-through. And now, it's another thing they've dropped. What a mess. And just on brand, when asked about constructive criticism, she pivots into a defense statement talking about self-preservation instead.
Well, there are certain things that I've done just for my own self-preservation.
She then pivots again from how can you do things better to how only naysayers are questioning her and that regardless everyone supports her so much.
And for the people that are incredibly supportive. I know, the question can be around naysayers, but if you really see the groundswell of support that surrounds the brand and me,
it's always me, 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 me. And look at her turning to the crowd with her hand pointing towards herself. She is an extremely defensive woman who has gotten so far and yet nowhere at all. She then says something hilarious. Because she doesn't have the comments on Instagram, she instead chooses to write her supporters a letter in the name of creating community.
But also the supporters, so I don't have the comment section on. That's a choice. So my social media manager would send me screen grabs of different things that people were posting in their UGC, and I said, okay, what am I gonna do here? They said, you could do a text overlay and respond, and I said, oh no, in the same way that on my own camera roll at home, I'll zoom in and I can scribble a little note and send it to a friend, writing in my handwriting a note to users who put up content. So I said,
sure, Jan.
Does anyone believe this BS? I believe that it's easy to write letters to supporters when it's probably just 6 or 7 of them, but I don't think anyone in the audience is buying what she's saying because she's so blatantly telling such exaggerated, unrealistic stories in an effort of proving how kind and in touch with her audience she is. She wants to promote this idea that she's like a real-life princess, writing cute letters to her supporters in her free time when she couldn't even care to see her dying father in the hospital. Instead, only sent him an email. And even the way she talks, people posting in their UGC, what? Just speak normally and not like a robot. Later, she's asked about a possible cookbook or magazine, and here comes another Meghan word salad tangent.
Maybe a magazine. What do you think?
I love paper. And I really love, again, the sentimentality of what happens.
I'm just gonna save you the agony here because it's a simple yes or no and why question. And she starts it off with, I love paper. Girl, if you do not get to the point already. As we can see, the entire time she is very smug and self-satisfied that when the interviewer says, you have numerous businesses under your belt, Meghan's like, thank you, and goes into another ramble about suits.
Now that you have numerous businesses and ventures under your belt.
Thank you. It's been incredible because when I was on Suits, that was my last time.
She's not answering any of the questions she's being asked. It's just a flattery tour for her. She goes on and on about how she has her own business now and that her crew is still very large, 80 people total. Like, it makes me want to ask you guys something. Have you learned literally anything at all from her speech? Now, what cracked me up is when Meghan rambled about some BS like showing up for people, pushing the envelope, and putting care into detail despite not answering the actual question. The interviewer pivots to another question with some underlying shade.
And so how do you decide where you're going to show up in those moments? Because I know you love detail and you want to be in charge of a lot.
She literally shades her by saying, I know you love details and want to be in charge of a lot, which is essentially the premise of all the horror stories employees have shared about Meghan. So what does Meghan do next? She diverts and says they work as a team and quickly jumps into her defense superhero story of being a mom.
Well, I think you have to work as a team. I'm still going to go and chaperone the first grade field trip and then run back and try to finish the meeting.
Then she goes into a self-serving ramble again about how this is her aesthetic.
And the brand is an extension of my aesthetic.
Which is hilarious since the brand logo itself was literally ripped off, and this entire aesthetic she's claiming can be traced back to Gwyneth Paltrow, Pamela Anderson, and a long list of other women who've already done it first. And what does an insecure person do, as we've learned in my Harper's Bazaar expose? They try way too hard. She starts dropping business lingo again to sound like she knows exactly what she's talking about, even though that's probably not the audience watching.
We adjust our margins. What does our spend look like? Really going through P&L. How that brand, if it's a CPG brand, is going to show up in people's homes.
A real successful CEO isn't tuning into this. It's more likely a stay-at-home mom thinking about turning a hobby into a business. And instead of clear advice, she gets Meghan talking like she's constantly in high-level meetings, desperately trying to prove she knows what she's doing. Get this, after all of that, she says that no founder would essentially disagree with what she's saying if they had her ambition.
I don't think there's any founder in year one that would say something differently, not if they had the ambition to scale in the way that I do.
I admire her delusion, really. She's acting like she invented this groundbreaking product that cured world hunger and simultaneously allowed space exploration at the same time. Even her body language and her tone, she kind of looks angry, like how dare anyone question what she's doing or even insinuate that she didn't succeed. All this makes the hundreds of thousands of unsold products sitting in inventory in 2026 even funnier. Did you hear she released bookmarks? It's literally an exact knockoff down to the material, color scheme, and saying as this other company you see here. To wrap up this section before we get to number 1, she's asked about financial independence, to which Meghan defines it as freedom of choice, then pivots into talking about how she supposedly spent a lot of time teaching young women financial literacy and empowering them, despite, according to her, people not wanting that empowerment for women or talking about that.
Thing that I spend a lot of time on specifically for young girls and their empowerment, not necessarily be the ones that people want to hear us talk about. There's nothing taboo.
The irony is that I can't point to a single concrete example of Meghan actually teaching women financial literacy, especially when she's never been transparent about her own finances. And she speaks about women's empowerment like it's some rare, groundbreaking idea. In reality, women's empowerment has entire days, movements, and 1 trillion songs dedicated to it. Yet Meghan frames it as if she's the first person to ever discover it. Of course, with her savior complex, she gloats some more, saying this is why she invests in other women brands.
When I'm supporting or investing in another female founder, I am investing in what she is going to do for the culture.
As if Meghan doesn't just invest in whatever is going to make her richer. None of us are perfect, but Meghan moves through the world like she's a savior walking among us, and not someone who invested in Cesta Collective, a brand marketed as ethical, only for it to come out that the women making those handbags were reportedly being paid as little as 10 pence an hour. I know this part was long, but I couldn't just say Meghan's word salad without giving you a million examples. But what truly takes the cake for me and my ranking for the number 1 most embarrassing Meghan and Harry moment of 2025 is, drumroll please, number 1, the baby mama dance. Meghan, who refused the traditional royal pregnancy photos in the UK with Archie under the guise of privacy, and because she didn't want to hand over pictures to media outlets she claimed were calling her son the N-word, was also the same person who went ahead and released a hilarious cringe video of her and Harry dancing while she was allegedly pregnant with Lily to celebrate Lily's birthday. The video starts awkwardly with Harry running around to turn the music on as Meghan waits. Suddenly she starts dancing as the song starts playing, and Harry comes into frame trying to have a role in the spectacle that is his wife's show, with him as the guest star. Then Meghan holds her belly, and this is the part that everyone was talking about. What was under her belly? Why did it look like that? And she already knows what people are going to say, so why provide more content to feed into the story you've been pushing back on for years? I feel like she tries to poke the bear when it comes to conspiracies surrounding her pregnancy. Not to mention that Meghan detailed a completely different story of this pregnancy in the past, one that is less cheerful and twerk until the baby pops out, like the one she was trying to portray here. This was the same woman who said that she had gained 65 pounds, feared falling in heels, developed preeclampsia, and thought she might die. And yet, there she was twerking in a hospital room. When the video dropped, medical professionals quickly pointed out that if she were truly in a life or death situation with preeclampsia, especially as a high-profile, high-risk pregnancy, she would have been heavily monitored. But for Meghan and Harry, attention also seems to be a matter of life or death. Whether she was embellishing her pregnancy struggles to garner sympathy, or really had a smooth, princess-perfect experience like the video implied, it was impossible not to laugh at the clip and at Meghan and Harry's incessant need for attention. They continually expose themselves while pretending to crave privacy, a story we know isn't true. Instead, it exists as a tool for them to leverage the royal family, build their empire, and bask in titles while offering little to no public service. And that, my friends, is exactly why people don't like Harry and Meghan. Some quick embarrassing notable mentions as I promised. Number 1, Meghan coming on stage at Kevin Costner's event after Harry told her not to. Number 2, Meghan holding canning tongs upside down in promotional photos for As Ever, showing the incorrect and unsafe way to use the tool for lifting jars from boiling water. Number 3, Meghan returning to acting when everything else went wrong and it ended up being a small cameo role for a random movie. Number 4, Meghan leaving dinner in New York City with 4 bodyguards, only for no one to be waiting outside for her except the regular paparazzi. And number 5, Harry's unamused face as Meghan planted a fat kiss for him during this staged video. I think it's safe to say that Meghan outdid Harry for most embarrassing moments this year, huh? Well, that's a wrap on my top 10 most embarrassing moments of 2025 for Meghan and Harry. Do you agree with my ranking, or would you put them in a different order? What's your number 1 moment, and did I miss any cringe-worthy highlights you think belong on this list? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Be sure to like and subscribe for new videos every single week. Follow us on our social media, and as ever, I'll see you next time.